In the last video, I shared with you the story of my journey up to the top of Mount Grey, the difficulties I had getting there, and then the capturing of some pano shots. In that video, I promised I would share with you how easy it is to stitch those panoramic photos together inside of Luminar Neo, and that is exactly what we're going to do in this video today. Literally, all you need to do is select the series of photos that represent the panorama, and you drag and drop them into the pano stitching tool. We click Start. And currently I'm sending in 4 raw photos. Luminar Neo is going to run through some calculations, find some key points, and it's going to stitch these together. And I'm currently sharing my screen in real time, and already you can see that it's rolling through the different things, and it's done the stitching already, and it's done a really great job for us. Those of you who recall my previous video where I shared the beta version of the panorama stitching tool will see that the interface has changed slightly. Looks really nice now. We're going to click continue. Super easy. We're now getting the option for an auto crop that wasn't there in the beta version. So a recommended crop is already applied, and we just simply click crop. If we're happy with it, which I am, I click save, and that is it. And just like that, the photo is spat out into the panorama stitching folder, and we're then able to open this up and edit it with all of Luminar's fabulous editing tools, just like we normally would. You know, I might want to throw some accent AI on there just to quickly do a really quick speed edit on this, you know, a one tool edit. Before and after, there you go. So if you're after a simple solution for quickly stitching your panorama photos together, this extension is exceptional. But there is more to it than that, and there are some features that I didn't cover in the previous video where I had access just to the beta version. So in this video, we'll dive a little deeper into a couple of things. I want to share with you what I consider to be my best practices for actually getting the most out of this tool. We'll look at the HDR merge feature that I didn't even cover or speak about in the last video. And also I want to share with you a really cool feature, how we can take an action video, create a panorama from that, and actually do that in a very creative way as well. For those of you that are new to Luminar Neo, let me quickly explain how the pano stitching tool actually fits into that ecosystem, because it is a separate extension to Luminar Neo. The core application of Luminar Neo itself is a photo editor. You want to process any photo, you throw it at it, and you can do that inside Luminar Neo. But when you want to do something more specialized, so for example, stitching pano shots together, which isn't appropriate for a lot of photographers because they might be into food photography, weddings, whatever, and might not need this specialized tool. So if you own Luminar Neo outright, you have the option to purchase these extensions as plugins, and you can just choose the ones that are appropriate to your workflow. Or if you're on the subscription model, you will just get access to all of these extensions anyway. To activate the extensions is really easy. In the top right of the screen, you'll see a button with extras written on it and a little jigsaw icon. You just click that, and then here you'll see all of the extensions you have available to you. And the last one in the sequence is the panorama stitching tool. And if you haven't already installed it, you'll just need to click this button right here, and it's as simple as that. So in this example, we saw 4 handheld shots that Luminar was able to merge together for us very successfully and very quickly as well. But now let's look at a more complex setup, and you can see that I have 12 images here, and these are part of an HDR panoramic set. And there's an issue with our ability to actually merge this into a single HDR pano, and it's my fault from when I actually took the photos. If you recall from the last video, I handheld these shots, and I was shooting with a long telephoto lens, and so between each frame there is actually quite a considerable amount of movement. So when we try and stitch these together, we run into a little bit of an issue. Let me show you. So the cool thing here is you guys can learn from my mistake. I've just selected all 12 of those, drag them into the panorama stitching tool, and now let's just look at a few more options that we do have available to us. So we have distortion correction, so we might as well turn that on. Devignetting, which gets rid of any darkening around the edge of the frame. We also have chromatic aberration reduction to get rid of those funny little fringing we can sometimes get. And ghost reduction is for if you have any subjects moving in between your shots. And then you can say to Luminar Neo, hey, I want you to pick whichever file you want as a reference and say, the thing that is moving, that is the image that I want you to use in the final output, none of the other ones. And then you can choose how much the movement is going on. but we don't actually have any movement, any subjects moving. So I'm just going to leave those 3 on. I'm going to click start and let's see what it actually does this time. But before we click continue, let's just have a look at the frames, and you can see that they've all been organized into the sets of 3, where we have the base exposure in the middle, we have a darker shot which is 2 stops below what the camera thought that was the correct exposure, and we also have a brighter which was 2 stops above that base exposure. Now if we look at the central frame, you can actually see that the sky is completely blown out, so that's why we would want a darker shot to combine with this one. The brighter shot is for if we lose any detail in the shadow areas. However, for a shot like this, we probably could just get away with the mid exposure and the dark one. However, I'm throwing the sets of 3 at the panorama stitching tool, hitting continue, and let's see what it does. Now, while in my experience I've found the processing exceptionally fast, I'm just going to speed this up because I've sent 12 raw files at the tool and I'm expecting it to create a merge from that, and it will take a little while. So I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, let's learn from Anthony's mistakes. As you can see, there are several issues with this file, and well, I don't want to say the main one, but a huge one is the fact that we have misalignment here. And that is my fault for hand holding these images while I'm trying to attempt an HDR merged pano. So my strong recommendation is that if you are wanting to stitch together HDR panos, please use a tripod for it. But as a quick side note, while it didn't work stitching together handheld images for an HDR pano, surprise, surprise, it did work when I wasn't trying to create an HDR version of that pano and just sent single exposure images to the pano stitching tool. Even though they were handheld, it did work. But for the best results when you're doing any pano, ideally you do want to be working from a tripod. I just didn't want to lug a big tripod up that mountain. Those of you that watch the difficulties of my journey to the top before sunset will appreciate that I didn't really want to be adding any extra weight that I didn't need. Alright, and as we crop this down and we have a look at this image, apart from the misalignment, there is another serious issue going on here, and that is the very visual colour banding that we've got going on between the different segments. And again, that is my fault. I left the camera's white balance on auto. I should have chosen a white balance and locked it off between shots. We shouldn't be introducing fluctuating white balances between our images. So again, shame on me. However, we can still get a very usable panorama out of these photos. So let me show you how. It all comes down to pre-processing our files. Now, if I open up the brightest exposure, you can see that our sky is completely blown out. Even though we're working in RAW, there is going to be no way that we can recover usable detail there. So I'm just going to dismiss the brighter file. Even the base exposure looks like we're going to struggle to actually recover decent detail in the sky. I'm just going to grab the exposure slider and drop that down. Well, maybe I'm not giving my sensor enough credit. Yes, there is information there in the sky. However, I think the best option for us is to actually work with the darker exposure, which was this one, -2 EV. And I'm just going to run a very quick edit on this. We'll boost up the shadows, make sure that we're controlling the highlights, and that is my main concern at the moment, just making sure that we have a full dynamic range in this image. We can press J on our keyboard just to make sure that we're not clipping the blacks too far or the highlights either. I just want to make sure that I'm just starting to see a few blue dots there and as minimal red dots there as possible as well. I've already dropped my highlights as far as they can go, so maybe we'll just bring the exposure just back down just a little bit and boost the shadows up again. So now, as you can see from the histogram, we have a full dynamic range. However, we have not locked in a white balance, and as you can see, it's set to as shot. So potentially between every frame I take, the camera is going to be shifting the temperature to what it thinks is the correct white balance, and that is where our variations between frames have been creeping in. So we just want to choose the numbers that we think look good. You know, I'll go for a much warmer look there, and once I'm happy with that overall look, it doesn't have to be a full edit, we're just trying to recover that dynamic range and make sure we have detail through our whole photo. We can now jump back to the catalogue, and I'm going to synchronize those settings across the photos I want to use. So I've selected each of the darker exposures, and now I'm just going to right click, adjustments, and I'm going to sync those adjustments. And just to make it easier to see, what I'm going to do is select the photos we don't want, and I'm just going to move those to the trash. And you can actually still see that in these center two frames, the color balance is a little bit off compared to the outer frames. And that's purely because I'm shooting directly into the sun. And so that white balance is actually changing with the introduction of the sun in the frame. And so I'm actually going to come in and just manually change that white balance to something that I feel is going to match a little better. And I'm just going to memorize that number 5481. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And come in and set the same white balance here, or close enough. And I'm just going to come up to the exposure and double click that to reset it. Maybe boost the shadows slightly. And the reason I'm doing that is just to try and recover more detail in the sky, but then I boosted the shadows just to try and keep the foreground similar to the other photos that we're actually blending this together with. Now the next potential issue we may run into is that if we drag all of these files as they are with our edit on straight into the tool, you can see from the little thumbnails here that they've actually returned to their pre-edited state. And that is because the Pano stitching tool is going to go to work on those raw files. So I'm actually going to just remove all of those. And so the way around that is to actually export these photos with those adjustments on. So I'm going to work with a nice high quality TIFF set to a bit depth of 16-bit and a color space of ProPhoto RGB. That combination of 16 bits of color depth along with the biggest color space available to us, ProPhoto, is going to give us the best quality files for the Pano stitching tool to work with. And you can see in the location here, I've set up a temporary folder that I can send these out to. Because I really don't care about those individual photos, I just want to use them as a stepping stone to my final result. Hence the reason I've got a temporary folder. I'll put them in there, and then when I'm done, I can just clean that out, send it to trash, whatever. But for now, they're going to be available to me to send into the Pano stitching tool with all those edits we just created. So now if we jump into the Panorama temporary files, I have access to those. I just select all four. Obviously I do that by clicking the first one and then shift clicking on the last. We have all four. Drag and drop. I don't need to worry about any of these changes here. And I'll just click start. Now we're no longer working with raw files. That was super quick. That was a real-time Pano stitch of this. And now we can look at actually how we work with this projection. Like, doesn't this look so much better already than that previous version that we were looking at? So as you were just seeing, we have the ability to click on the Pano itself and shift it around in this window, and that is going to change the projection, and that allows us to set it up how we think. So Luminar Neo is going to send it out as it thinks is best. However, we've got the ability to tweak it. And so this central line here represents what should be the horizon. And so all I'm doing is, rather than having it sat centrally, I'm actually just shifting it down so that the horizon line or thereabouts just roughly runs through that black line there. And you can see the difference between, as I pushed it up, everything's kind of bowed like a rainbow. However, as I pull it down, everything just gets nice and straight and true. That goes for the clouds, the horizon, everything. That looks way better. We also have the different projection methods available to us. So the first one is a spherical projection, cylindrical, Mercator, planar, and also fisheye as well. There is a lot of mathematics that goes into calculating those projections, but really you don't need to understand that. What I would recommend you do is just flick through them and see which one looks best to your eye. For me, I really like the cylindrical projections for most of what I do, so I'm just going to go with that in this case. So it's really simple to use that tool. I've demonstrated probably the most complex version we could send at it, an HDR merged Pano that was done handheld. And so I've shown you the workaround if you do have more complex images you want to throw at it. But if you're just using JPEGs that are pre-processed by your camera, it's super quick, super satisfying to use, really great tool. If you don't have it yet, I've got a link in the description below where you can check it out, and also a discount code as well. Just for complete transparency, I want to let you guys know that 𝗨𝘀𝗲 have kindly sponsored me to create this content for you, showing you how to actually use the Pano stitching tool. So while I'm genuinely really enjoying using the Pano stitching extension, just wanted to be completely transparent with you guys and let you know that this is a sponsored video. Right, so far we've looked at a very conventional way of using a Pano stitching tool to create a traditional photographic Pano. However, we've got something really creative and cool that I can show you now, which is how to use video to create something a little bit different. So let's take a look at that. Okay, if we look at the 4 thumbnails at the top here, a bit of a spoiler as to what's to come, but that's just me playing around with some videos in the Pano stitching tool. So I'm just going to select one of these, and the only reason that we don't see the thumbnails at the moment is literally because I haven't updated the codecs on my operating system. But once we're in here, we can see the video of my daughter doing some tumbling down at the park. And let's say this is the one we want to work on. We can just trim the video in to the finish point that we want. Let's go for something like this. That's fine for now. We can also bring in the beginning point as well, but I'm pretty happy with it starting there. But this is the really cool thing. We can turn on custom object composition. Now what that actually allows us to do is to select elements of action in the video that we want to include in the final panorama. And so for instance, if I want to start with a shot of my daughter here, I just drag a rectangle over the top of her. And now I know that bit of action is going to be in the final composition. Let's say we want one of her upside down like this. Again, I just drag a rectangle over the top. We can move the sides in so that we can be quite precise. And again, move on to the next bit of action. How about one where she's upside down, something like this? Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we can just expand the rectangle to make sure we get her all in. And then let's include a finishing shot as well, something like that. And then as I run through the video again, you can see these blue dots represent the pieces of action that will be included in the final pano. Now one thing you need to be mindful of is that if the action you select overlaps in the actual space of the video, you might get a little bit of ghosting, a little bit of transitional overlap in the final pano, but let's see what this one turns out like. And there you go, we've got 4 bits of action that make up the final pano image. I probably would have liked to have put a 5th element in here of my daughter doing something else, but that's the cool thing, we can just play around and get the effect we want. Again, we've got the option to just have a play with the different projections and make sure that we're happy with the one that's selected. And when we are, we just press continue and then just crop down the image. I'm just going to bring this in slightly because there's a slight anomaly that you can see just there. I may just want to rotate this just slightly to get a correct horizon line, and then hit crop. I can save my photo, and that then drops in with my other pano edits. And you can see this is the 5th one that I played around with those videos, and it really is a lot of fun to mess around with. You can see on the right hand side here, and this sometimes happens, you may experience just a little bit of ghosting going on, but that's easy enough to fix up either with the erase tool, where we can just brush over the top of it, hit erase, and Luminar will just get rid of that. We've got some issue going on in the sky there as well. So if you do get any visual anomalies, they're actually really easy to clean up, and I think that's a very small price to pay for such a creative use of the tool. For me, it's a really good example of 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗄𝐿's creative problem solving, taking a traditional tool that we're pretty much all familiar with in photo editing and just recreating it differently, reimagining that tool. If you haven't got it yet and you want to check it out, I've got a link in the description below. And if you want to see my epic journey of how I actually captured some of those panoramas that you saw at the beginning, I'm going to link to that video as well. Well worth checking out, and I'll see you guys in that video or another photo editing video in the future.